Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Red Dead Redemption 2 video, we're going to be talking about the secret life of Micah Bell that you might not know about. So we did this last week with Arthur, and you guys really seemed to like that video in terms of some of the details we talked about. Well, we're going to be doing the same thing today with one of the biggest antagonists in Red Dead Redemption 2, Micah Bell, and apparently everyone's most hated character of all time. So according to the collector's edition of the strategy guide, which gives us an in-depth description of each character, Micah Bell is a career criminal and hitman, and Micah fell into Dutch's gang about 5 months before the start of the gang. Now, he claims that he met Dutch when he saved his life in a bar fight over some stolen gold. Now, he also comes from a long line of bad men. His father and grandfather before him were also called Micah Bell, and at some point his father was wanted for murder in 5 counties. He has a brother living in California whom he despises. He's wild, unpredictable, and something of a nihilist. He lives for the action and is great in a gunfight. So that right there is a brief description of Micah, but there's actually some locations in game where we can gather more information on what has actually happened to him. So during the missions, Blessed Are the Meek and An American Pastoral Scene, you guys know that Micah actually has a camp somewhere outside of Strawberry. And this is where he stays. You guys might recall that he says he doesn't want to return to Dutch without like a reward or without something to bring back as like a peace offering. He actually stays at this camp. And at this camp, if you visit at a later date, you can actually find 3 items that will reveal some more details on his past. So the location of this is just northeast of Strawberry, and it's also just to the south of Monto's Rest. It's in between like these 2 big rock formations. It's really easy to find. I'm showing it on the map right now. So as I mentioned, you find 3 items here. The first is actually Dutch's wanted poster. Now, it looks like it's just the top part. We don't actually see a mugshot or anything like that. But you can see here it says $1,000 reward. Wanted dead or alive for robbery and murder, Dutch Vanderland. So $1,000 if you are able to turn in Dutch. And that is a crazy reward. But I think the bigger thing is, why would Micah have this? There's definitely going to be some spoilers revealed throughout this video. I'm in the epilogue right now, and if this is something you don't want to have spoiled, you might want to come back at a later date. But anyways, let's dive into it. So it's clear that Micah ends up betraying the gang. But as we know, at the epilogue, it sort of seems as if he got back together with Dutch. So I'm really not too sure how their relationship is. Maybe the reason Dutch actually got back together with Micah is because he was sort of holding him ransom. Like he was saying, you know, Dutch, if you don't join me, I'm going to turn you in. And I'm going to take the $1,000 reward, or I'm going to use it to my advantage. That's the only reason like you'd be holding on to something like that. Maybe as like a reminder of the power you have over someone. So that's the first item you can find. The next item you can find is a newspaper scrap for Micah. And this reveals some information on his past. So you can see the top is farm lynching murderers wanted. Father and son suspected. So it says 1877, father and son suspected. 2 men are wanted in connection with the murder of Roscoe and Jean Briggs of Crawford County, Ohio. The rancher and his wife were found hanging from the beams of their hay barn with their throats slit. The suspects are believed to be one Micah Bell, age 38, and his son, also Micah Bell, age 17. Locals say the 2 men had found temporary work at the ranch a few days earlier. The sheriff has issued a bounty of $10 for their capture, dead or alive. So when I first read this, I was like, what the heck? Micah Bell has a son? I don't think so. I think in this instance, Micah Bell from the game is the son, age 17. Because remember, that article or that event happened in 1877. The main campaign takes place in 1899. So that means there's a 22-year gap between when this happened and when we see the start of the game. So that means that Micah Bell, if he was the dad in that situation, would be 60 years old. Micah is not 60 years old, let's just say that. Because then if you were to add 7 years to the epilogue, that would make him 67. He's definitely not that old. So we do actually figure out how old Micah Bell is during the game. He's 39 years old. So by the time he reaches the epilogue, he would be 46. So not like terribly old, but certainly not young either. And another thing that was interesting was the fact that they only had a $10 bounty. Maybe it was just different back in 1877, but that's pretty insane. And the final document we can find up here actually gives us details on the Blackwater incident. This is referenced so many times throughout the game, but you don't get a lot of details on what happened. So it says, May 1899, outlaw gang wanted over heist. Pinkertons increase search. And it says a gang of criminals believed to be under the outlaw Dutch Vanderlyn escaped with approximately $150,000 after a bloody gunfight with Pinkerton agents in Blackwater yesterday. The bank was moving the money out by a boat after a string of stagecoach robberies in the area. The authorities believe that the men must have stashed the money in Blackwater before fleeing, and the town remains on high alert. This is one of the largest robberies in recent years, and ... And that's where it cuts off. But can you believe that? $150,000? Like, that amount of money is insane in 1899. That's probably the equivalent of like, $50 million in today. I don't even know, but it just sounds like an insane amount of money. And it also gives us some details on actually what happened in Blackwater. So basically, it was just a simple bank heist. But instead of the bank moving money via stagecoach because of recent robberies, they decided to move it via boat or via a ferry. And that's when the Vanderlyn gang and Micah actually attacked. And they said they've stashed the money somewhere in Blackwater, which we'll actually talk about, where that is in a little bit. Now, we can actually get more information on Micah Bell by reading the in-game newspapers. There's a couple of different ledgers that you can get that will actually give you details on the actual outcome of Micah Bell. So the first article is, Micah Bell killed, famed gunslinger, betrayal ends his murders, wanted for Blackwater robbery. And it says he was believed to be hiding in the Grizzlies for many years. Emerging to sow mayhem and murder to fuel a life on the run, Micah Bell, one of the most notorious outlaws in the region and a former member of the infamous Dutch Vanderlyn's gang, was slain at his hideout. The train robber and desperado evaded authorities for years, during which time he killed nearly 24 men. He had sworn an oath to compatriots that he would never be taken alive. Yet despite a concentrated effort by Rangers, Pinkertons, and local law enforcement to bring Bell to heel, it appears as if he was completely taken by surprise by former gang members who have long accused him of treachery and theft of ill-gotten gains from the Blackwater robbery in 1899. Bell was without a doubt the most desperate outlaw at large in the area, striking terror into the hearts of carriage and stagecoach riders who have long feared his murderous reputation. Several sheriffs have been elected in the county, and each had vowed to bring Bell to justice. One sheriff, Braxton Hefner, finally landed Bell in jail, where he was tried and sentenced to be hanged. 2 days before paying the price for his crimes, he broke jail and had been at large. So we get a lot more interesting details about Micah here. Number one, it looks like during his time that he had been on the run, he had killed nearly 24 people. That is a lot. That is obviously a ton of people, and we also get details that, he's also murdered little girls too, which makes him just a horrible person. We also know that he went to jail at one point and was going to be hanged before eventually being broken out. So he was captured before, which is kind of interesting, and they obviously didn't get him, and he escaped, just like he did during the campaign. In the next newspaper ledger, there's an article that talks about Micah called "We Are the Helpless." So it says, a cacophony of outrage has been building at the lawlessness that prevails in towns across the area. Numerous outlaw gangs seem to operate unchecked or unstoppable by law enforcement, rendering the terrified citizens helpless. The reward for the killing or capture of infamous outlaw Micah Bell and his gang was recently increased by government officials in response to the unanimous outcry from citizens that something must be done about this murderous gang of thieves and killers. Mr. Bell and his associates continue their spree of killing and robbing while running roughshod over the law enforcement. His acts of lawlessness rival that of Vanderlyn himself. They pay no debts and dynamite banks and buildings as recreational pastime. Bell has been a long suspect in the Blackwater bank robbery and Strawberry Massacre back in 1899, and numerous train robberies that have ended in dismemberment or death of passengers in the years since then. And they end by saying little is known of Mr. Bell's origins. So again, we get some more details right there, and that's why it's important to read these newspaper scraps, because they do give you some good details on not only the events you do in game, but also what you have experienced in the past. So basically, the final thing I wanted to look into is where Micah and Dutch could have possibly stashed the money at Blackwater, because as you guys know, at the end of the game, Micah and Dutch have the money. So clearly one of them knows where it is. And I would assume the only person that would know is Dutch, because if not, you would have thought Micah would have just gone back to Blackwater himself and taken the money. And that's probably at the end of the game why Dutch is with Micah. Now, there's only one spot in particular that I could think of here that would make sense. Because if you're going to be leaving money, $150,000, you want to make sure it's safe. I don't think you'd put it in a building. It could easily be destroyed, moved, or torn down. You don't want to put it in a spot that could be built on. So I think the most logical spot that makes sense in Blackwater is a graveyard. No one is going to mess up a graveyard, and no one's going to be digging up graves. That's actually a serious crime. And wouldn't you know that one grave in the Blackwater Cemetery is Dutch's mom, Greta Vanderlyn, who died just before the start of the game. Wouldn't that be a perfect spot to put $150,000 in the grave of your mom? No one is going to dig that up, and you know where it is. So that's where I'm thinking it is. There isn't signs that like it was dug up, or you don't find like dollar bills scattered around. But if I had to take a guess, that's where I would say the Blackwater money was stashed and hidden, and that's why Micah was with Dutch at the end of the game. But anyways, that's all the information that I've got for you guys in this video today. That right there is the secret life of Micah Bell that you might not have known about. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. What is your thoughts, opinions, and more on Micah? I'd love to hear from you guys down there. If you did go on to enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new, or you like daily Red Dead Redemption 2 videos like this. With all the way, guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.